Happy Friday, everybody. Thanks for joining us again today for another PWA Studio Community Sync. So we have a pretty good agenda today with a number of demos. We'll do some kind of smaller team updates towards the end. I think both Jordan and Lars, I think, are out for today. So it looks like for Community Corner will come in a little bit light, but of course we'll do any community updates, take any questions from anybody on the call. And then we'll wrap up and get into our weekend or get into the rest of our Friday. I don't know. Okay, so first up for a demo, we have Ravant, who has some of the work that he's been doing with Forgot Password. Or maybe we don't have Ravant, or you're muted, Ravant.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I was muted. Sorry. Hey, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening as well. Thanks for joining.
Case I don't see
This
you.
is going to be definitely not. I just woke up. You guys don't want to see me.
Mm.
Okay, so I'll be demoing the forgot password section of the new My Account Epic. Um, in the desktop view, we'll have a trigger on the top for sign in. The sign in was done, but we haven't worked on forgot password for a while, so here's the forgot password. Um, right, once we click on the forgot password link, it opens up a new view where someone can submit their own email address. And given if the email address is valid, once they click submit, the backend is going to send an email, and the same is going to be mentioned here. So I'm right now waiting for my email, and I got it. If you look at the whole email, right now the backend is based out of Luma template. So the email is going to show Luma, but here it has a button to reset the password. If you hover over the password button, if you can pay attention to the URL, it's actually the admin panel URL rather than the URL that we are running off of, which is the storefront URL, because the email template or even the backend does not have access to the storefront URL. Once we click it, it opens up a new page. It's a new route that we have added as part of this ticket. And if you look at here, it's actually the backend. Oops. Let me expand this. Yeah, it's actually the backend, not the storefront URL that I've been working on till now. So the backend URL and then the customer account and create password is the new route. And this route is usually the default route from the admin panel, and it can be changed if someone wants to. The email link also provides the email to which the user is trying to change the password, and also a token that the backend needs for the mutation to be accessible. And here I can give my password, and I have LastPass enabled, so it's actually like showing a different button. But if I open this in incognito mode, you can see a different view. So I don't have LastPass enabled in the incognito mode, but here's the complete view. And the toggle button is right here. It's going to toggle the view of the password. And since this is a password, it's a very simple password, obviously the server is not going to accept it. So when I click save, the server is going to say it cannot set the user's password. And it could have been better if the server returned a better error message saying that the password strength is not met, or like so password criteria is not met. But that's work in progress from GraphQL. So if once they update their own error messages, you're going to see a different message here. Let me hide the password and change it to something that the server is going to accept. Oops, sorry. Save. And here in the bottom there's a toast, and also there's a error. Sorry, there's a success message right here. Let me go back to the view I was on and enter the new password. Awesome, that worked. Similarly, we have the mobile view. In the mobile view, the only difference would be that you don't have the trigger on the right top corner. It's actually inside the left drawer, like in the desktop as well. And if you want to see how the, oops, oh, where is it? Ah, it's right here. If you want to see how the reset password view looks on the mobile, let's see that. So the only difference would be that there won't be a border around it. And if, let's say, your email or token or something that is required for the mutation to be passed is missing from the link, there will be an error message that shows up. Like something is wrong with the link. Please check the link or try again. That's it on my end. Does someone have any questions? Anything? Awesome.
All right.
I'll take that as a no in that case. Thanks,
Awesome.
Andrew.
Thanks, Ravon. Okay, so up next we have Andula. Obviously, we have a team that's working on internationalization and localization. So Andula has some updates on the progress there with header and footer.
Yes, hey guys. So I'd like to share with you some stuff we have been working on. We have delivered a couple stories, and we're currently working on translating some areas of the app already, header and footer in particular. So I'd like to show off some of that stuff that we're currently working on. So you can see I have a couple things going on. I have this set to French, so you can see that a lot of the header stuff is being translated, as well as the footer, and stuff like this copyright is coming from the back end, so that can be set with Magento admin to be translated. So it's not using the React INTL package that we've implemented. So in order to get a French store working like this, you need in your backend to set your store view, create a new store view with the code. For example, I have French that I want to translate. And then a couple other things you would need here is you need an environment variable, which is set, for me, it's set to French for the store view code here. So locally, I have my environment variable set to French, and with that, we're passing that to the GraphQL endpoint with the store view code here passed in the header to get the store config data, and that is using this GraphQL query. And then we're just running this all at build time at the moment, so we can see some of the localization happening. And then within the main app, we are passing in the local files for React for i18n. So within a directory in your app, we're looking for an i18n folder with the translation. So for me, I have French. I have a French translation in there at a path similar to this. So we're loading that in dynamically based on the store view locale. And then we're using React INTL, so we're wrapping their international provider around the whole app and passing in the messages and locale for it to work. So here's an example of how we're actually translating it within components. We're using React here. We're using a hook, and we're just setting some of the strings with any values, for example, like this, using the format message method. And you can also use it as their format message component. So that is basically it for the demo. We have some of the search working as well, in some areas in the search, some areas in the My Account section, and footer links as well in content. So that is it for my demonstration. Is there any questions?
All right. Thanks, Andula. Yeah, silent group today, I guess. But this is really awesome to see the progress that the team has made with internationalization and the localized content, even in the short time that you guys have been working on it. I'm excited for pushing forward with it, and I'm sure, despite the silence on the call, that the community will be very excited as we continue to make progress on it. Right?
Yeah, I would say that I'm actually stoked. I would use the word stoked.
Yeah.
Thank you, Anthula. This is awesome work.
Okay, so up next we have Tommy. Tommy's got some updates on Wishlists and progress on Wishlists, as well as some side ranting. What are we gonna call it? I don't know. Some additional updates.
When you spend 2 hours on a weird Safari bug and it turns out your teammate has already solved it, you got to vent a little bit.
Oh, ouch.
But here, very first, we gotta get into Vinia land. All right, now we're in it.
Very nice.
All right, so let me go ahead and show my screen. This is going to be a very quick demo because I don't know if I'll start with the caveat. I'll start with the good and just show you what we're doing so far, and then we can start talking about the weird things. Not weird, just fun things. So Wishlist, it's in. So this is an authenticated piece of functionality. It's also a piece of functionality that's dependent on your, I call it flavor of Magento. So that's open source versus commerce. So if you're on open source, you get one wish list. If you're in commerce, you get as many as the backend will allow. I think the default's 5, but you can set that to 1 million, have as many wish lists as you want. But this is the precursor to kind of the skeleton of all that functionality. It will be that functionality to add additional wish lists will just be easily toggleable by your backend version. So I am logged in here as Philip J. Fry. So now this menu has been added. I think we've demoed it a few times. There's actually a redundant way to get to it. So you can either get it through the left nav, through favorites lists, or through, if you're on desktop, you can get through this new dedicated nav. So, so what I am doing here is, I'll just say I'm displaying wish lists. We're calling them favorites lists. And right now it's just going to be a very generic view because this is just the skeleton. But the only thing that's functional right now is being able to toggle the visibility. Click on any of these buttons, they don't work. None of these buttons work. So, great demo, right? But there is a really cool piece to this. It's like something that's initially a bummer, but then the way that we solved this problem is going to be really cool. So what we have done, so I don't know if everyone's on the up and up on what GraphQL coverage is available, but Wishlist is still lagging behind. So in the past, typically we'd fall back to implementing something in REST, but believe it or not, there's not even REST coverage for Wishlist. So instead of just not doing this feature at all or like mocking it to fake data, we have the ability with Apollo to kind of simulate. So the spec for Wishlist is done. So if we go to this architecture article, they have finalized all of the upcoming Wishlist queries and mutations that are going to be released in 2.4.2. So if we design our kind of mocked backend to this schema, it should be a matter of when 2.4.2 is released, we just flip off this client-side type definition and resolvers that we have implemented. So kind of the first step here is that I've extended the customer type in in Apollo, added this new wishlist field, and just following the exact architecture schema here, if we use all the same exact types, this is going to be just a seamless replacement once this is released. So we kind of mocked out the type here, and then we added a resolver to kind of fake the response data right now. So right now, whenever you query for wishlist, you're going to get a single wishlist back that is private, doesn't have a sharing code, doesn't have any items in it. So the next feature that we do in this kind of wishlist story will kind of just continue to add things to this mocked response. And then when we get to like mutations and things like that, we can even continue extending mutations to add those. So like we're still using Apollo to fire all these mutations. We're just mocking the response that we expect to get back from the network. So that was really neat. So this will be really cool that we get to build this feature. And it might even be that like by the time we release this feature, 2.4.2 might be out. And even though like technically we're blocked and don't have like a real live backend to test this in, I'm assuming that it's going to be a very quick, just turn off these client resolvers, start using the dedicated backend in 2.4.2, and this will just work. It'll be a fun experiment. We'll see if it actually happens that way, but I'm pretty confident that this will be a really, really cool thing to do. And kind of enables us to start getting ahead of GraphQL too. Like GraphQL has done a really good job at kind of finalizing their schemas, finalizing their mutations and how they expect them to function. So as long as we both build to this schema, we can kind of build our feature sets at the same time rather than us waiting for them to finish a feature. So this will be really neat. And then before I get into my rant, any questions about that? Congratulations, praise, thanks.
We're not worthy.
I know it's like a nerdy thing to geek out on, but that's going to be so cool. And then
No, it's not. It rules. It's,
and then the last
I mean,
piece. Go ahead, James.
I was just going to say that messing with the GraphQL schema as like a facade around the backend GraphQL schema is like murky waters for a lot of us, but it's going to give us so much usefulness that it's really good that you dove into them.
Yes. Yeah. I think we've done it before with like some minor features. I think this is gonna be the first time where like it's like an entire feature, but we'll see how it goes, and hopefully it's as cool as I think it'll be. And then one last piece is our amazing QA dev finds everything wrong with anything that we write, and even in this very simple skeleton, he found a tiny issue where in Safari, this button here would not wrap. So this is my rant. Today I learned some HTML elements cannot be grid containers. So if you're like me, I've entirely leaned into grid. Anything that I want to like place next to each other is a grid, and they have a gap. But if you do that with a button, in Safari, it may not appear as a grid. So this is just, if you're like me and using grid for everything, this is good to know. It also applies to Flexbox. If I would not have been as obsessed with grid and probably would have relied on display flex, I would have run into the same problem. So if you're using any of these modern CSS properties, um, there's this awesome GitHub repo that kind of summarizes all the issues that you might run into with Grid. So a curated list of all the weird gotchas in different browsers. So if anything, if you didn't like the Wishlist demo, you've at least learned today that buttons cannot be grid containers in Safari. All right, that's all I have. Any questions? So silent.
Awesome. There you go. Everybody's demo is amazing this morning and inspires much silence. I don't know where I'm going with that. I'm just rambling at this point. All right, so I think that is it for all of the demos we had planned today. Just a quick update. I think before I turn it over to Mr. Zetlin for an update on our progress and where we are. Again, I think as you can see from the demos that we showed this week and last week, and if you look at a roadmap or if you even look at what's going on in GitHub, we continue our progress on My Account and working through the My Account features. The team is continuing progress on internationalization and localization, obviously. And then we have some additional things that we've been working on in terms of bugs that came up that kind of motivated us to fix some other feature areas like Ravant's forgot password demo that he did today. So, of course, we continue to look at the tickets that are coming in from the GitHub repo. So if you're opening bugs for us, so we continue to triage those on a weekly basis. If you're opening feature requests, we continue to triage those. So I'll just say that as a community update, since Jordan and Lars could not be here. If you have any feedback, if you have anything any open questions that you have around projects or what we're doing on community backlog, feel free to open issues for us. Reach out to Lars, reach out to Jordan, and we can obviously address those questions, concerns, or feature requests, whatever they might be. So now that my little ramble is done, Mr. Zetlin, I think you have an update for the larger group here.
It's brief. So folks, I am here to tell you that you are not quite rid of me, but you are a little bit rid of me. And for those of you who have ongoing work with me and questions for me, I am going to continue to be available for you during my transition to a new role. Fortunately, my new role does still involve PWA Studio. It's just a little expanded. So essentially, the big change is that I don't get to shout people down in arguments about architecture anymore because the team is taking it over pretty thoroughly. In case you haven't noticed, I have not been the sole voice talking about designing and promulgating PWA Studio for quite some time, which is wonderful and what I wanted for a long time. So I have receded into the background and worked on things like extensibility, etc. And extensibility in Adobe Digital Experience more broadly is a hot topic, and there is a new team comprising me, but also a whole lot of names that you'll recognize from Magento architecture, who are taking up the task of trying to synchronize and assimilate the different extensibility concepts across our platforms. And I'm going to be doing that. There are a few loose ends and some additional code and stuff that I have to contribute. And I'm going to be doing that in the next couple of weeks. But maybe more importantly, the description of the role should tell you that I still very much have a stake in PWA Studio. So again, I'll be around. You'll probably hear my loud voice sometimes. But I am officially moving on to more of a stakeholder role in this project. For me, this is huge and wonderful news because for a while I wasn't sure, this being a large project for me, for I want to say more than a year, I wasn't sure if it was going to reach maturity without me to keep arguing about it, arguing for it. And now it is a thing that stands totally apart from me, and that is a tremendous relief. I'm really proud of it and of you. And again, I will be on Slack and showing up to these meetings. You might expect a little bit more delay, perhaps, when I respond to you because I have increased responsibilities, but you're probably used to that already. That's my update. I'll answer questions off the air.
Awesome. Well, thanks, James. Thanks for all that you've done for the project, obviously, over the last couple of years. You're still going to be around. We're still going to have plenty of questions for you. We'll
Yeah.
still throw plenty of PRs your way, I'm sure, or assign them to you and then let them sit there. I don't know. I don't know if that's a thing that we do. But you'll be around, obviously. But congrats on the new team, and we look forward to more stuff from you.
Thank you very
Bigger,
much.
better things from you.
Yeah, better for once, right?
Okay, so that is it that we had on our agenda for today. Quickly, I'll just do a quick roundtable if there's anybody on the line that has questions about anything we've demoed today or anything PWA Studio specific. Feel free to jump in now or jump into the chat. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining today. We will see you all next week. I hope everyone has a great rest of their Friday, a great weekend. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you later.
All right.